My brother tried to steal my inheritance right there in front of the judge. He said I was too incompetent to handle it. The family nodded along, but I had proof in my hands that none of them expected. I'm Allison. I'm 34 years old, and I work as a high school English teacher in a small town. I've always loved words more than wealth. I guess that made me an easy target in my family. I'm the youngest, and my older brother has always been the one who got all the attention and praise. He was the ambitious one, the successful one, the one who always knew how to make money. I was just the quiet girl who liked to read and stayed out of the spotlight. My parents used to say I wasn't ambitious enough. They said I was too quiet, too passive, that I'd never amount to much because I didn't chase wealth or status. I was the underachiever in their eyes. I wasn't rich or glamorous, but I had something they didn't expect. I had a sharp eye for details and a stubborn streak that doesn't quit. I spent years building my own life quietly. I managed my finances carefully, saved what I could, and built my independence one small step at a time. I didn't need their approval. I just needed to prove to myself that I was capable. And I had small wins along the way. I paid off my student loans early. I saved enough to buy my own car. I built a life that was mine, even if no one in my family noticed. If your family ever underestimated you or thought you'd never handle your own finances, hit subscribe. Share your story in the comments. I read every one. Let's prove that quiet, smart, determined people can win. Click hype if you know what I mean. It started when I got the official notice in the mail. My aunt had passed away, and she left me $75,000. I couldn't believe it. She was the only person in my family who ever really saw me, who valued the fact that I cared more about books than business deals. We used to talk for hours about literature, about life, about the things that really mattered. She told me once that I was the only one in the family who had a good heart. I didn't know she meant to leave me everything. When I showed up at the court hearing to finalize the inheritance, my brother was already there. He walked up to me with that smug look on his face and said, "You're not capable of managing this. Give it to me. I'll handle it." The judge looked at me, probably wondering why I was so quiet. My family was sitting in the gallery, whispering to each other, making it clear they thought I was too inexperienced to deal with this kind of money. I felt humiliated. They were smirking at me like I was a child who couldn't be trusted. I panicked inside, but I kept my face calm. I clutched the envelope in my lap, the one with the signed will inside. Then my brother did something I didn't expect. He pulled out a document and handed it to the judge. He said I had signed over the inheritance to him voluntarily. The courtroom gasped. I stared at the paper. It looked official, but I had never signed anything like that. My hands started shaking. This was a setup. My brother didn't stop there. He stood up in front of everyone and said, "Your Honor, my sister is a high school teacher. She barely makes enough to support herself. She has no business sense, no experience managing large sums of money. She's irresponsible. I'm the one who should handle this for the family." People in the gallery nodded. I felt my face go hot. He was humiliating me on purpose, and they were all letting it happen. The family lawyer leaned over and whispered to me, "Maybe you should consider a settlement. Avoid the drama. It would be easier for everyone." I realized in that moment that they all thought I would fold. They thought I was too weak, too scared, too inexperienced to fight back. Then the judge called for a private caucus. My brother, the lawyer, and a few family members huddled together in the corner of the room. I wasn't invited. They didn't even look at me. They were making decisions about my life, my money, without me. I sat there alone, watching them whisper and nod to each other. I felt invisible, but something clicked inside me. I started thinking about everything my aunt had told me. She used to say, "Keep records, Allison, always keep records. People will try to take advantage of you if you don't." I had listened. I had kept every letter she sent me, every note, every instruction. I pulled out my phone and started looking through the photos I had saved. Dates, signatures, notarized documents. I cross-referenced everything with the forged paper my brother had submitted. The dates didn't match. The signatures were off. I had proof. And I wasn't going to let them push me around anymore. What they didn't know was I had kept every letter, every note, every instruction my aunt left me. She trusted me when no one else did. I had a collection of legally signed, notarized documents that proved the inheritance was mine. My aunt had been careful. She knew my family might try something like this, so she made sure everything was airtight. I had copies of her will, signed and witnessed. I had letters in her handwriting explaining why she chose me. I had bank statements showing that she had always intended for me to be the sole beneficiary. My brother had been so overconfident, so careless. He assumed I wouldn't have the guts to fight back. He assumed I didn't know how to protect myself. He was wrong. I had a plan they never saw coming. And it didn't involve asking for permission. There was one person in that courtroom who didn't underestimate me. Mr. Carlson, the old family lawyer who had worked with my aunt for years, caught my eye. He gave me a small nod. He had always respected my aunt's wishes, and he knew I wasn't lying. After the caucus ended, he pulled me aside and said quietly, "I've seen your documents. They're authentic. Don't let them bully you." I felt a wave of relief. I wasn't alone. He encouraged me to stay composed, to let them dig their own grave. Meanwhile, my brother was getting more arrogant by the minute. He kept making snide comments, mocking my quiet demeanor, acting like he had already won. The court clerk started flipping through the papers on the judge's desk. Whispers rippled through the gallery. My brother misread the tension. He thought the whispers were in his favor. I sat there, calm on the outside, but inside I was preparing for the moment I would strike. I rehearsed what I would say. I organized my documents in my mind. I was ready. The judge called the room to order. She looked at my brother and then at me. She said, "I've reviewed both submissions. There are some inconsistencies I'd like to address." My brother leaned back in his chair, confident. I stood up and walked to the front of the room. I handed the judge my folder. Inside were the notarized copies of my aunt's will, signed and dated, with witness signatures that matched the legal records. I also included the letters my aunt had written to me, explaining her decision in her own handwriting. The judge read through each document carefully. The room was silent. Then she read aloud, "I, Margaret Ann Holloway, being of sound mind and body, do hereby bequeath my entire estate, including all financial assets totaling $75,000, to my niece, Allison Marie Holloway. This decision is final and irrevocable." My brother's face went pale. The lawyer next to him tried to interrupt, but the judge held up her hand. She continued, "The document submitted by the claimant alleging a transfer of assets is inconsistent with the signed and notarized will. The signatures do not match. The dates conflict. This claim is invalid." The courtroom erupted in whispers. My brother stood up, sputtering, trying to come up with an excuse. I stayed calm. I looked him in the eye and said, "You thought I wouldn't fight back. You thought I was too weak, too scared, but I'm not. Aunt Margaret trusted me because she knew I would honor her wishes, not twist them for my own gain." The judge said, "Your attempt to claim this inheritance as your own is invalid. The papers prove otherwise. The inheritance belongs to Allison Holloway." My brother sat down, humiliated. The family members in the gallery looked away, embarrassed. I felt a surge of relief and pride. I had won. I walked out of that courtroom feeling validated and empowered. For the first time in my life, I realized that being underestimated isn't a weakness. It's the perfect cover for quiet strength. My family was left sitting there, grappling with their own regret and the realization that they had misjudged me completely. I didn't gloat. I didn't rub it in their faces. I just left. I went back to my life, back to teaching, back to managing my finances independently. But something had changed. I felt confident in my own judgment and abilities in a way I never had before. I wasn't the underachiever anymore. I was the one who stood her ground. If your family ever tried to take what was rightfully yours, you know that feeling of being doubted and betrayed. Share your story in the comments. Let's support each other. Subscribe to join this community of people who stood their ground. Click hype to help this story reach others who need it. Standing up for yourself isn't easy, especially when it involves family. If you've ever been in my shoes, subscribe and join our community. Click hype to show others they're not alone, and share your experience in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories travel.